Good morning, everyone. So we'll start by showing you some software that is available. These are some paid softwares for fluid and solid simulations. They use the concepts of CFD. So here you can see a bridge and flow past that bridge. Here is an airplane wing, and these are some streamlines that they have shown. So this software is ANSYS. There is another software, COMSOL. These are all paid softwares. There are several others. This is one of the free open source code that is available. You can tweak this code. You can look inside uh, how have they implemented certain things in their code. So I'll recommend using this open source code if you want to simulate something bigger. So here are some examples. Let me show you one of the examples here. This is flow past. So they, as you can see, this is the code also. In between these English texts, this is something they have written, and then there is some code after that. Okay, so let me show you this. Flow past this ship. This is a ship on the sea surface. Okay, and you can see how the water waves are being generated as the ship moves. In this simulation, what they have done is they have kept the ship stationary, and the wind is blowing, and the water is also flowing against the ship. So both of these things are relatively similar. Okay, there are several other examples here. You can modify this code. There are boundary conditions written here, initial conditions, and so on. So let me just show you how they have written the boundary conditions here. So if you see this part, boundary conditions, it is very simple. In this code, they have modified the C code to include these things here. For example, they write P bottom, which means on the bottom boundary, what is the value of pressure? So you don't have to write a for loop for all the cells or for all the grid points that are at the bottom boundary. You can just write P bottom equal to Neumann U0, Neumann 0, which means it will be a Neumann boundary condition. Neumann boundary condition means partial derivative of pressure with respect to that direction. In this case, it is bottom boundary. Let's say it is y direction, in which it is the y direction points from bottom to top, let's say. So this will be dou p by dou y equal to 0. That is the boundary condition we are applying here. And then u dot n bottom equal to Dirichlet 1. This means it is a Dirichlet boundary condition. That means the velocity value is 1. And which velocity? It is u dot n. That means it is the normal velocity. U dot t means tangential in this code. So we will talk about this code later on. This is just to show you that there exists some open source codes that you can just download, install easily on your computer and play with it. Okay. So now we'll go back to our MATLAB code. In the last uploaded lecture, I explained this implicit code for heat conduction. The benefit of implicit scheme was that you can choose any alpha value and you don't have to reduce your time step or grid size in order to simulate this, in order to avoid instability issues. We saw that in explicit schemes, uh, the solution is unstable. There are waves that are generated on the temperature profile. We saw that. And it can go out of bounds, it can become infinity. So that's why implicit scheme is better in that sense, that it is unconditionally stable for this particular equation, that is heat conduction equation. And we also saw the solution of wave equation. Okay, let me just run this to show you. We got a solution at some intermediate time. We chose this TF as our final time where we want the solution. It was 1 in some units. If you consider all the units here to be SI units, then this is second. Okay, I can vary this. I can make it 0.5 and run it again. So you can see it has diffused less. And these are our boundary conditions: 0 temperature at the left and 100 on the right. Now we also printed something here, this variable n. N shows the number of iterations it took to converge to a final result at each time step. So in this case, we ran for 101 time steps. This is the first time step. It took 66 iterations to converge for this Gauss-Seidel iteration. So let me show that. This was the Gauss-Seidel loop. This outer one is the time loop. Okay, and we have set the convergence criterion. We have set our tolerance to be 10 to the power minus 4. If the error goes below this value, then we will consider it to be good enough. Okay, we will say that our result is converged. And how do we find out this error? Yeah, we take the absolute values in this T new, the newly calculated temperature array, and the absolute value of the old iteration array, subtract element wise and sum all the elements. So on that summation, we are saying that if that summation of all the errors is less than 10 to the power minus 4, then exit this loop. Less than or equal to, then exit that loop. And we are counting the number of iterations here by this n variable. And at the end of every Gauss-Seidel loop, we are storing that final n value in this array capital N. And then we are resetting this small n to 0, so that again in the next Gauss-Seidel iterations, it is set to some new value, okay, which will be the number of iterations for that time step. So we see that it is 66, 65, and so on. If I don't have the time variable here, so I cannot plot it versus time, but you can see this, that it is reducing with time, and it is reaching almost a constant value. You can see it is saturating, okay, because initially the changes are large, so it takes larger number of iterations, then slowly the number of iterations reduce, because you are reaching towards a steady state. Your initial guess is becoming better and better for Gauss-Seidel iterations. Now if I change this TF value to something else, keeping the time step, effectively increasing the time step, because we are keeping the number of time iterations to be the same, time steps to be the same. So let me try 1 here and run it again. Now let us see what happened to variable n. You can see that the number of iterations it took to converge for every time step has increased. It is almost double. It was 66 before, now it is 121. So it took more number of iterations to converge, because now our time step is bigger, because we have same number of time steps, 101, but the final time is higher. So effectively dt became higher. Okay. Now what can we do to reduce this time step here? So there is a concept called successive over relaxation. Let me explain that. So right now what we are doing is, let's say the solution is some x at k plus 1th iteration or n plus 1th iteration, whatever you call it. I'm not using n here because we use n for time step. So let's say it is kth iteration. So the solution as at k plus 1th iteration is a function of solution at kth iteration. Okay. Now what you do is, to find out a better approximation, a faster approximation, you add something to this previous iteration solution. Let's say the solution you would have gotten from this Gauss-Seidel iteration at k plus 1th time is xgs at k plus 1th time, and the difference between this and the previous iteration result is this term. Now instead of adding this difference exactly, which will eliminate xk from here and you will get x gs k plus 1. If you just have 1 here, then this xk will cancel out and you will get x gs k plus 1, which is the Gauss-Seidel solution. But you don't want this, you want to increase the rate of convergence. So what you do is, you multiply this with a bigger number. Let's say some 1.2 or 1.3 or even higher number. Generally this number is kept between 1 and 2 or 0 and 2. If you want to under relax, if you want to go slower, then you can have a value below 1. Let us call this omega. Omega is generally between 0 and 2. Okay. But you can go even higher. There is no restriction on that. Whatever increases the rate of convergence. This is known as, for omega greater than 1, this is known as successive over relaxation. Successive over relaxation. SOR, or it will be under relaxation if this is less than 1. Now you can imagine, if I plot this versus time, or this versus number of iterations, the solution versus number of iterations. Let's say the initial guess is somewhere here. The next solution at k equal to 1 or k equal to 2 depending on whatever the starting index is. Let's say the next solution would have been this one from the Gauss-Seidel loop. Then what you are doing is this value minus this value multiplied by some factor omega, which is greater than 1. If you add to this value here, you will get something here, okay, beyond this point. So if you are sure that you are going towards a converged result in this direction, then if you multiply that value by a higher factor greater than 1, then you have increased your rate of convergence. You have already reached below this value. Is this clear? Is there any question? Okay. So now we will implement this in our code and we will see if we actually increase the rate of convergence or not. So we can delete this line or we can just comment it so that MATLAB does not execute this. We will copy this line here. Now we'll see what we want to write here. This x gsk plus 1 is the right hand side that we have already written. So that minus the previous iteration result. This minus the previous iteration result, which is t nu I, multiplied by some factor, let us say 1.3, and plus the previous iteration value is the previous iteration value plus omega times the Gauss-Seidel result, which is this entire thing, minus the previous iteration value t nu I. Now let me run this again, and now we'll see the changes in this number of iterations for each time step. Okay, the solution is the same. We can compare that. We can see that the number of iterations have reduced. So there is an increase in speed. Okay, it has become more time efficient. We can also check what happens if we increase it further. Let's go to 1.5. It has reduced further, 47 iterations for the first time step. Let us try to increase it further, 1.7. Oh, it has increased. It has decreased further, 27 iterations only. Let us go to 2. Now you can see that there is some error here. It doesn't look like a correct result. But what about convergence? You can see it converged in 7 steps. Then it took 23 steps. And then after that, in just 1 or 2 steps, it converged. But the result is not very good. Okay. If I decrease this error, which might be very high in this case, still it is converging, but the result is not correct somehow. So it is not advisable to go beyond 2. You also have to check whether the result is correct or not. So in CFD, although it may converge, still it may be wrong. Okay. So a code has to be validated against experimental results or previous results, previous correct results. What if we under relax this? Let's say 0.7. Now you can see, naturally it is taking more number of iterations to converge for every time step. Okay. But under relaxation is also useful in some cases where the convergence is oscillatory, so that you don't overshoot the correct result. All right. If there is any question you can ask, or we'll move on. Okay. So till now, we have seen the solution of a parabolic equation, a hyperbolic equation. Can you give me an example of the parabolic equation that we saw here? Can you write it in the chat window? Yes. Heat equation is an example of a parabolic equation. In this case, we saw that we have two options, either explicit scheme or implicit scheme. In both the cases, what we did was t at the next time step is a function of t at the previous time step for the explicit scheme, or this one for the implicit scheme. But we always have the option to use an explicit scheme, which is very simple to code, a few lines of code. We don't have to involve these Gauss-Seidel loops and so on. For hyperbolic equation also, we saw what is an example of a hyperbolic equation. Can you please write? Yes. So wave equation. In this case also there was a time term. We wrote wave height y or u at n plus 1 is a function of y at n or y at n plus 1 and y at n. But we can always write an explicit scheme for that also, with some limitations, of course. Here we had c delta t by delta x less than 1 for convergence, for stability. And for heat equation, we had alpha delta t by delta x square less than equal to half. Here also less than equal to 1 for stability. If we are writing explicit scheme, what about elliptic equation? Elliptic equations don't have this time term. They are not direction dependent. For example, here there is a direction in which the solution moves. There is this time direction. It cannot go back in time. You always have next time step. Okay, and the solution depends on the previous solutions, the previous time step. It is not that the solution can depend on future time steps. But in elliptic equations, an example can be a two-dimensional steady state heat conduction, del square T equal to 0, let's say. This is steady state heat conduction. How do we get this? So instead of writing this complete heat conduction, unsteady heat conduction equation, we set dou T by dou T, that is temperature change with time, to 0, and alpha is finite. So del square T is equal to 0 at steady state. In this case, the solution at any point will depend on the solution or the temperature at all the points in the space. That is in both the directions x and y. So if we have a two-dimensional plate, let's say this is x and this is y, and we want the solution at any point P here, this will depend on the temperature at any other point. Okay, the solution at point P will change if we change the boundary condition here or anywhere else. Okay, so now let us try to write the discretization for this equation del square T equal to 0 and see if we can use a explicit kind of scheme or not. This can be expanded as dou 2T by dou x square. If we are using a Cartesian coordinate system, now there is no time. Let us use index I and j for x and y directions. And let us use central difference. Equal to 0. Now you don't have anything like Tn plus 1 and Tn here. You don't know all of these temperature values because this has to be calculated at steady state. You don't know any of these temperature values at the steady state. You only know the boundary conditions, that is T. If the index goes from 1 to nx and 1 to ny, then you know T1 j, Tnx j, Ti1 and Ti ny. Ny, nx are the last indices in y and x directions. Okay, you know only these quantities. In general, you don't know I plus 1j, ij, I minus 1j, all of these temperatures. So how can we solve this equation? Any suggestions? Okay. What we can do is we can use this iterative procedure. We can write all the equations at all I and j points, and we can solve them simultaneously because there will be equal number of unknowns and equations. That is guaranteed. You can try that. And we can use this Gauss-Seidel uh, method with over relaxation for faster convergence. So let us see what this matrix will look like. Let us write here T 1 1 1 2 1 3 and so on. Then T 2 1 2 2 2 3 and so on up to T nx ny. And let us write the coefficients in the left hand side. What will the coefficients be? T11 we already know. T12 also we know from the boundary condition, and so on. We know all up to T1j. All of these we know. So we don't have to write them in the matrix here. Let us erase them. We will only write the unknowns. Let us say we know these values via Dirichlet conditions. So we'll start from T22, 23, 24 and so on. T32, 33 and so on up to T nx minus 1 and y minus 1. Now what are the coefficients here? When you write this equation, all the equations at all I and j points, you will get for I equal to 2, j equal to 2, you will get T22 here and here. So it will be minus 2, 1 by delta x square plus 1 by delta y square. Then you will have T23 from this term ij plus 1. Okay. What is the coefficient of that? It is 1 by delta y square. Then you will have, do you have T24? You don't have T24. Here somewhere you will have T32. After many zeros, we'll have somewhere 1 by delta x square. Okay. And similarly, all the other coefficients. You can write this whole coefficient matrix like this. This is equal to 0. All zeros. Now, from the Scarborough criterion for the convergence of this equation, if you are solving it using Gauss-Seidel iterations, the condition is that for this particular element, for this particular variable for which you are solving right now, the coefficient of that, which is this one, the mod of this should be greater than or equal to the sum of all the other coefficients. Okay. There were two conditions that you can see here. If you take this coefficient to the right hand side, it says that the sum of all the other coefficients should be equal to, this is the equality sign, less than or equal to, should be less than or equal to the coefficient of the current variable, and for at least one equation it should be strictly less than that coefficient. So does this satisfy this rule? That you have to check. So let us consider Tij as our unknown. Let us write, let me write it here itself. Okay, if I take everything to the right hand side, all the other terms, and just keep Tij, for which we are going to solve. If I write the equation like this, then you can see that this is minus 2 by delta x square. These are minus 1 by delta x square and minus 1 by delta x square. So effectively minus 2 by delta x square. And this is also minus 2 by delta y square from the second term. So we can see that the sum of the other coefficients is equal to this coefficient mod. So that equality condition is satisfied. But what about the other condition, that for at least one equation it should be less than 1? If this condition can be satisfied, then we can solve this elliptic equation that we have written like this using Gauss-Seidel method. So can you suggest if there is a possibility of satisfying that equation somehow for at least one equation out of all these nx minus 2 by ny minus 2 equations? These are the number of equations that we have, leaving out the top, bottom, left, right layers on which we know the temperatures. Out of these many equations, how many equations satisfy this strict inequality? Any idea? Okay, let me answer this. For any ij point inside the domain, the coefficient mod of Tij is equal to the sum of all the mods of the coefficients of the other terms. That is fine. But if you consider the points T2 to 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, For them, if you see, if you write 2, 2, I equal to 2, j equal to 2, what happens to the right hand side? You get t1, 2 here, and here you get t2, 1, which are known values. So effectively, you get a constant here. If you remove these numbers from here, you can write a constant there. So then the unknowns that are there are only ti plus 1j and ij plus 1. And the coefficients are 1 by delta x square and 1 by delta y square. The sum of them is less than minus 2 by delta x square minus 2 by delta y square mod. So you can see that here in these cases, for the points which are near the boundaries, this condition of strict inequality, that it should be less than the coefficient of this unknown, is satisfied. And in all the other points, it is equal. So the Scarborough criterion, that is satisfied. Therefore, you can solve this equation using Gauss-Seidel method, but the care should be taken that your unknown should be Tij, because that has the maximum coefficient here. If we write Ti plus 1j equal to rest of the terms, then that will not give us the converged result, because that will not satisfy the Scarborough criterion. That's why we chose Tij to be on the left hand side. Now we can also write a code for this in the MATLAB. So that is an assignment for you. Write a code for solving steady state heat conduction equation. But that is not the complete assignment, because I have to give you the boundary conditions. That is not the complete problem statement. So what are the boundary conditions? And what is the domain size? So let's say x goes from 0 to 1, y also goes from 0 to 1. This point is 1 comma 1, 0 comma 0. This is the domain. This is a square plate with conductivity 0.1 in some units. So now I have to give you the boundary conditions. Let's say the bottom boundary condition is up to half of this domain, the temperature is 100. Here it is 0. So this part is hot. Then this entire boundary is hot, T equal to 100. And this is T equal to 0. And this is also T equal to 0. This is the problem description. You have to find the steady state temperature in this domain. In MATLAB, you can plot 3D plots. So you can plot a surface for temperature versus xy. Temperature will be the z coordinate, and the space coordinates x and y will be the two x and y coordinates. Okay, you have to submit it within 1 week. Okay, before the next class and the next live session. If you have any questions, you can ask right now. Okay, then we'll stop here. Thank you.